I'm Neill, and you're listening to the Movie Raid Show.
It's time for the Movie Raid, and tonight's victim is makeup artist Neill, that has done many films such as Beetlejuice, Ed Wood, Edward Scissorhands, Mrs. Doubtfire, many others. Hello.
Hello.
What have we been working on recently? Anything we could check out right now? Anything that you're promoting that we could check out or is about to be released that you want to talk about real quick?
No movie releases because I am retired. I retired in 2018, and I am opening up a film and television makeup academy. I figured I did makeup for 45 years, and I think it's about time for me to teach everybody how to do it correctly. So I decided to open up a school and do exactly that.
The opportunity, do you think this is becoming more or less in today, especially with effects and different technology, how to use the makeup, so forth? Do you think what you're trying to do you think this is actually going to benefit them better than the methods that's going on right now?
They're never going to be able to do movies without makeup artists because you always have to have that tactile thing with actors. They want to be made up. They want to be turned into characters. It helps them. It enhances and enriches their character, and it makes them feel and look like the part. And that's why we do it. There's been so many jobs that I've worked on where I've noticed that the actors just really come to life once they're made up. I mean, for instance, when we did Pirates of the Caribbean, Stellan Skarsgård wanted to continue being progressed as that Bootstrap Bill character when we were only supposed to do 3 progressions on him, and we wound up doing like 8 because he wanted to continue to have more and more makeup put on him so he could feel the weight of everything on his body and it would help him to act. I think it's really important for makeup artists these days to really know how to talk with their actors and with the directors and help get across the message that they're trying to put across in the film.
You know, when an artist has established themselves, do you think that an actual point where they feel involved but less attached to that craft or even more product driven, do you think some of that creativity has been directed somewhere else?
The whole thing about being an artist is if you're uninspired, it makes you not want to do your job. And if that's what's happening to them, then sure, that does happen to people.
Well, having established a school, do you feel like the education in this profession is an offset balance between what other methods of other schools are actually teaching or processes when learning this different techniques and so forth with these artists?
If you're asking me, are some schools better than others? Absolutely. Because a lot of times, a lot of these schools just keep pumping out makeup artists. They keep teaching old techniques. Some of them even have graduated students who actually haven't been out in the field teaching other people how to do what they learned. And that's absolutely ridiculous because half of our job is troubleshooting and knowing what to do when you don't have something. In the classes I teach, I want them to be able to say, okay, well, this is state of the art. We want to use silicone prosthetics and blah, blah, blah. And the director says, you're out in the middle of nowhere. And the director says to you, you know what? I've decided this guy needs to have a big old gash in his leg and I want him to get shot in the head. And inexperienced makeup artists will go, well, I don't have anything to put on. I don't have prosthetics. I don't have any transfers. I can't do that. No. How did they used to do it? I want them to know how they used to do it so that when they get into a position like that, not only do they know how to do the silicone state-of-the-art type prosthetics that we're using in transfers, but they can do it out of a kit. They can pull something out of their kit and be able to make something out of nothing. And a lot of these schools don't really teach that anymore because people think they don't have to learn it. They only want to be taught all the easy stuff. No. As a well-rounded makeup artist, not only do you have to be able to do stuff that you can pull out of a box or that somebody made for you, you have to be able to do it out of nothing. And also, a lot of people go to schools and all they want to do is beauty makeup. Well, that's just bloody great. You know what? That doesn't work in the movies because we shoot things about real life people where people get hurt, people get beat up, people get all kinds of strange stuff happen to them. And if you haven't learned how to do absolutely everything that could ever happen to a human being, then you really aren't a full-fledged makeup artist as far as I'm concerned. You have to be able to do anything that they ask you to do.
As these newer films are coming out, like, do you think the makeup process is, like, on some of these, even though the studios want it or the director or all parties involved, they want this to happen, but do you think that kind of hinders on the artists themselves? Like, they don't really have too much control. It's like they're putting less detail on stuff, but that's kind of like a self-judgment in a way. Like, I'm not good enough, or they're going to think I'm a crappy artist.
Let me explain something to you. If you're on a film and the director says you have 5 minutes to do this, you just say, okay, well, we'll see what it looks like in 5 minutes because it probably isn't going to look like what you want. They have to understand that, it takes so many minutes to do certain things. And when people get rushed, then they don't look right, or things are wrong, or they can't fix something, then it's not going to be fixed. Then they'll just say, don't worry, we'll do it in post. This is something that really pisses me off because half the time they don't let you do their job, but they'll say, oh, well, we'll fix it in post. And then you go see what they fixed in post and it's totally wrong. So if something happens on set, it usually doesn't have anything to do with the makeup artist being lazy. It has to do with the fact that they don't give them time to fix it or don't give them time to do it. to begin with. Admittedly, there's probably some makeup artists that don't know how to do stuff, and well, that's okay too. You'll learn eventually if you care enough to be a makeup artist for film and TV. You'll learn how to do it. But sometimes, they just don't give you time to do it.
Do you think sometimes influence from other artists, do you think sometimes that influence, like they're taking that influence for themselves, but they're not actually putting themselves out there. They're taking what they're influenced by. Like, it's something like if you were listening to your favorite band and you're going to start a band, but you say, if you like the sound of these guys, check this out, that you're going to sound like that band. Do you feel like some of these artists are almost kind of replicating?
Makeup and film, you're replicating real life. You're not replicating somebody else's job. You know what I mean? A lot of stuff you'll see on Instagram and all this stuff, yeah, they're just replicating each other. They're all making the same stupid faces and painting on skulls and doing all, zipper faces and all this kooky stuff they do. Because that's all they know how to do. That's all they've ever seen done up close. Somebody showed them how to do that on YouTube. But you can't learn everything on YouTube. At some point or another, you're going to have to be in a room with somebody who's going to be able to take you and show you exactly how to make it and show you all the things that are going to take to make something like that happen. So you can only learn so much on YouTube. And I think that's what you're talking about, replicating other people's work. When you're working on film and TV, the only thing you're replicating is real life.
Oh, absolutely. But you also always have those types of groups of artists out there. They are doing something like what they've been shown, what's already been done, but they act like they made something amazing, like they did it themselves, but they're really using something else from somebody else, but even though you were influenced by it.
They do what you've been taught. If it's like monkey see, monkey do, then you're replicating whatever somebody taught you how to do it. And if you're taking credit for it, then okay, whatever. You did it. You can take credit for it. Doesn't matter if you replicate it or not, because I can show 10 people something and they're all going to do it differently. They're not going to do it like me because I have my own style. But they're going to do it and they're going to make it their own.
If someone tries to replicate you, do you get offended by that, or do you take it hold to yourself a little bit? Like, okay, well, you're stylizing, but you're not doing it right either way.
You know what? If somebody tries to replicate my work, it just makes me feel good because I see it every day. Somebody is always trying to replicate my work. And if you ask me, that just means I influenced somebody and made them want to do something fun or creative or whatever. Because if I got pissed off every time I saw somebody doing a Beetlejuice makeup, I'd really be in bad shape because there's thousands of them. I see it all the time. Scissorhands, I see Beetlejuice, I see the Penguin, I see Poison Ivy. I see all these characters that I've done throughout my career, and I don't get upset about it. That's cool. They wanted to do it. It means I inspired them to be creative. It doesn't bother me.
These artists out there, you're always going to hold fresh batch of new artists trying to do different things, trying to get inspired by things, and oftentimes they have all these distractions. I mean, what do you think is the worst distraction, especially in that profession, that a lot of times you might see, you're just totally doing it wrong, but you're being distracted by something else that you shouldn't be directed to making this kind of product or other vision?
Oh, I don't know. I would have to be in a room ready to figure that out. I couldn't possibly do that without seeing what they're doing. More than likely it's their damn phone, but I'm not going to say that out loud, you know what I mean?
When you're only used for very basic little things, I mean, again, does it go back to that mentality of an artist? Are you any good? Just because you're doing that one technique or that one appliance or whatever, how much effect can this really happen in long course of the career when it happens, when you're only hired for a specific thing or two little things, and you keep being hired for those two little things for more than one project?
Well, if you keep getting hired for that thing, you better damn well do it really, really good and charge a lot of money.
Sometimes this leads to early retirement for some, because it is a tough business for all fields, and either the right school, the right person or persons to get taught where to go and how to do it. It's always an inconstant learning curve for everybody.
I don't think we ever stop learning. Even when I'm teaching classes and I'm talking to some of the students, I learn something every day from one of them. There's a better way to do this, or I saw somebody do that. You never stop learning. And as long as you realize that you can always learn something from somebody, that's fantastic. And I always tell the students, never turn down a job. I don't want to do that. I already did that. Well, you know what? You're going to go there and you're going to meet somebody else who's going to give you another job on another project, or you're going to meet somebody else who you like to work with, or whatever. You never know who you're going to meet on a job. So I just always tell everybody, don't turn down a job just because you've already done it, or you think you're not going to meet anybody new. It's BS. You're going to always meet somebody new. Hell, you never know. You might meet a husband or wife. You don't know.
And some of these artists like are always putting themselves in one specific area. Like they go in one specific genre or one specific area, like let's say in television or something. Do you feel sometimes these artists, they need to be everywhere? They can't just stay in one spot. They have to keep moving. And it's okay if they feel comfortable. It's okay if, you know, if they're doing money wise, but artistically, like, do you feel like they need to be covered in every area, not just staying in one specific spot?
It might be that somebody doesn't really want to do the other stuff, and I totally get it. Some people, all they want to do is print work. All they want to do is work on TV shows, and they want to be able to stay at home. You know, right now, we're never at home. If you work on a film, you're never at home. You're always off someplace on location, especially women. I'm going to direct this to the women, because what happens with women is if you want to have a family, you better be able to be at home once in a while, because I'll tell you what, it never works out when you're always on location. The kids don't see you, the husband doesn't see you, everything falls apart. So I understand why people say, no, I only want to do this, or I only want to work on commercials. Commercials are fantastic. If that's all you want to do, I have a girlfriend that knows how to do every kind of makeup there is and would be fabulous on a movie, but she wants to be around home and she works on commercials. She makes almost twice as much money, and she's home most of the time. So people want to limit themselves, and they have a niche for something, or if they want to work on certain types of shows, if they only want to do sci-fi, or, you know, whatever makes you happy. If you can live and survive on that, do whatever makes you happy. You can't be miserable and be in this job. You know, I loved my job, and I did every kind of movie there was. And, you know, I used to think all I ever wanted to do was like science fiction, horror, and fantasy. And then I did a few movies that were about real people, and I had to replicate real people, and it was really fun to do character makeups, to try to make somebody look like a Kennedy, or try, you know, whatever the thing was. You know what I mean? So people want to limit themselves. That's their deal. And when they get bored with that, they can step outside the box and learn whatever else it takes to go step outside the box and go do other stuff.
Every artist starts out, obviously, with the indie circuit all the time, and there's nothing wrong with that. It's a build-up. It's a great build-up. It's a great, you know, show of example. But what happens when they do get big studios, when they get hired and get everything right, but then things start going downhill and they go back to indie? Do you think in a way that could be kind of a cop-out or a fail-safe for them, go back to that? Or do you think that's more of too much of a comfort zone for them to go back?
Once you get in the union, you won't be working on indies anymore, unless you're working on ones that are union. So you can go work on indies all the time. There's tons of indies that are union. It's going to, number one, it's going to take you at least 5 to 10 years to get in the union, and by then you're going to have a really good idea if you want to do this or not. You'll learn what you want to do, who you want to work with, if you want to learn how to do more stuff, you know, whatever. So it's going to take a while to get in the union. So stepping backwards and going to do indie films is not necessarily like a bad thing. It just means you want to work on smaller projects where you're not working 20 hours a day, and you can be at home, or you can, you know, do whatever you want to do, whatever the inclination is. So there's nothing wrong with working on independent film. Look at it this way. Netflix is an independent company. Netflix picks up all the indies. Netflix probably has the most movies out right now that are being looked at for Academy Awards. So there's nothing wrong with an indie.
And sometimes you need some of these indie companies that, you know, like Netflix, to give them this chance. And it seems like as we keep going further and further into the future of cinema, it's like these guys are getting their work limited, or the creativity is becoming less used because of the profits and so forth of these other companies. You see the creative ideas and you see everything else going on within this area, but yet these guys are not given enough chances and especially the risks to go in these multi-million-dollar projects.
Well, like I said, most of the time those multi-million-dollar projects that you're talking about are all union shows. So until they get in the union, there's nothing to talk about, quite frankly. You're not going to be working on some like little low-budget movie with like 2 or 3 years under your belt, and then all of a sudden be brought to department head of tent pole with a big studio. That's not ever going to happen. They're going to want somebody who has at least 10 or 15 years under their belt of like running their own shows and knowing how to budget things. And it's not so much artistry as it is paperwork now. We have a lot of paperwork to do. You have to know how to budget your show. You have to know how to do mandates, how to break down a script. You know, you have to be able to tell them, you know, when I'm talking about mandates, they're going to say, well, how many people are you going to need to work on the show? Like, how many days are they going to have to work? So much stuff that you have to do on these big movies now. You have to learn how to do a lot of show running yourself. That's part of an educational process, which we would be teaching at our school, which, by the way, is called Legends Makeup Academy. You'll find that it's very beneficial to know all these things, because you're going to go somewhere and you might go to work for somebody else who has the same amount of experience as you, but you know more because you've like learned all these new cool things, because you're going to have to know all this stuff when you hit the big time. time. But you keep saying, well, they don't have the chances to do that. The way you get those chances is you keep working on those indies. You keep getting your days together till you get enough days to get in the union. Then you'll start working on like lower budget union things, and you'll talk to your department head, who's probably have a lot more experience than you, and they can start teaching you how to do all these things, and eventually you will do your own big movies, and eventually you will do the really big movies, you know? So the chances are a process of education, basically. It's not like they don't have the chances to do it. You have to be in a situation where you've had enough experience to be able to get those chances.
Go ahead and plug in any websites or anything that you care to add with the school, or anything that you want to promote with the school, or any advice that you care to add.
Okay. I obviously want to promote the school, which is Legends Makeup Academy. We have 35 courses we're going to be teaching. Everything from beauty makeup, high fashion makeup, all the way to full creature design, mechanical effects, all kinds. You know, everything you can imagine, eventually we will have. And you'll also be learning from people who actually work in the business, who are like my friends that I've been working with for many, many years. You'll learn from all the best teachers, because you won't have students teaching you. You'll have actual working makeup artists teaching you.
There you have it, everybody. Makeup artist Neill.
Thank you, everybody.